love Diablo's patch 2.3. It is amazing. I love it. There's actually a lot of different reasons why I love it, but we're just going to go over one of those reasons today, which is a new Barbarian build, which I have been having just a ton of fun with, and it's actually gotten me a lot further in Greater Rifts than any builds previously. So, let's take a look at what it is. So first, the biggest thing we're going to look at is the change, and by change I mean straight up buff to the Immortal King set. So the 2 set and 4 set bonuses are still the same. Call the Ancients last until they die, you get reduced cooldown on Wrath of the Berserker, and Call of the Ancients by 3 seconds for every 10 Fury you spend with an attack. Wonderful. The big thing here is the 6 set bonus. While both Wrath of the Berserker and Call of the Ancients is active, you deal not 100% increased damage as it was before this patch, but now 250% increased damage. You know what that is? That's a much bigger number. We like bigger numbers. This is fantastic. So, what does this mean for us? Well, it means that we have a brand new build to play around with because there's some new items that are really helping us out. The new shoulders, Fury of the Ancients. Call of the Ancients gains the effect of the Ancients' Fury rune, which is awesome, because we used to have to use that rune, because that's what gives you Fury every time the Ancients hit something. Now we can use a different rune because we still get this for a Fury generation. It's beautiful. And now we have Bracers of the First Men. Mine are not perfectly rolled. That life per hit should probably be Vitality, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers. It's still Ancient, so hooray. The big thing is the unique affix, which is Hammer of the Ancients attacks 50% faster and deals between 150 to 200% increased damage. I got pretty lucky with 198% roll. Those are the big things, and an item that was already in the game but now has much more use for us is the Gavel of Judgment. The big thing is that it does come with Hammer of the Ancients damage, and then it's unique, which is what really makes the build, is Hammer of the Ancients returns 22 Fury if it hits 3 or fewer enemies, and that amount is between 20 to 25. The amount really doesn't matter, because Hammer of the Ancients costs 20 Fury, which means if you're hitting 3 or fewer enemies, it's effectively free. The nice part about that is that it doesn't reduce the cost. It means you spend the Fury and then immediately gain it back, and that matters because the effect here, the 4-piece bonus for Immortal Kings, is you actually have to spend the Fury to reduce the cooldown. So this means while it can effectively be free, you are still spending that Fury to reduce the cooldown of your Wrath of the Berserker. What does that mean? It means that we can have, once again, 100% uptime on Wrath of the Berserker, which is amazing. So for the rest of the gear, again, full IK set, everything except the weapon. For your amulet, we are going with a fire build. There are a few alternatives. I will be displaying the fire build. So either strength or fire skill damage, and then crit damage, crit chance, suck it, is the big thing. We are going with the focus and restraint rings, and I'll go over why when we get to the skills. In case you're wondering, you know, how good this build is, and if you have the gear for it, let me show you my focus and restraint ring. I'm using it with intelligence from a different class because I don't have them with strength. Okay? So I'm using intelligence, and if you really want to see something bad, my focus is awful. It's int armor crit chance. I don't even have crit damage on this thing. And this is still a 50 plus Greater Rift build. That's how good this is. As far as cubed items, for the weapon, we're just going with the Furnace to increase damage against elites. That's probably the best thing we could be doing. We are going to be using double Unity. Our follower will be using Unity with the Immortal Relic. You have a few options for armor. Honestly, this is just the only thing I have right now. I have the Tasker and Theo cubed, which does help the Ancients attack faster, which gives you Fury back faster, which is nice. There are a couple different ways you could go. Something I've thought about, I haven't tried it yet, is like strong arm bracers, because we will be knocking people back with Furious Charge. So strong arm bracers could actually be good, might actually be better. I'm going to play around with it a bit, but the point is you can cube whatever makes you happy there. But the Furnace and Unity, I would definitely say you got to go with. As far as gems, Bane of the Trapped is an obvious one. We are in melee range. You're going to constantly be getting the bonus damage from it. It's huge. Esoteric Alteration is another big one. Just, that damage reduction is really, really big. We need survivability. Again, we are a melee class. We're going to be up in the enemy's face. We need to, live. Can't deal damage if you're dead. And Gogok of Swiftness is really, really good. I actually haven't leveled up my gem very much yet. I need to do that. The cooldown reduction is not hugely important because really the only skill we have on actual cooldown is our Warcry. Because Hammer of the Ancients has no cooldown, Battle Rage has no cooldown, Furious Charge has no cooldown, Wrath of Berserker and Call of the Ancients are going to be reduced because of our IK set, so those are going to be up, constantly. So the cooldown doesn't really matter, but the attack speed is pretty big, getting up to 15% attack speed. Pretty nice. So that's that Paragon Point distribution. Again, just get enough movement speed that you're at the 25% cap. Everything else can go into strength. Offense, crit chance and crit damage first, then attack speed, cooldown reduction last, because again, we don't really need it for this build. Defense, resist all, then armor, then life percent, and then life regen last. Utility, you could go a few different ways. Actually, I have this from a previous build. I'm wondering if maybe I shouldn't have life on hit max before resource cost reduction. I probably should, actually, come to think of it. That would make a lot more sense. So actually, let's do that real quick. So life per hit and area damage, and then resource cost reduction, gold find obviously last. So let's take a look at the skills. Kind of talked about them already, but let's go over them fully. Again, we are going with the fire version of Hammer of the Ancients just because it does the most damage, and we like damage. The other option is a lightning build, because whenever you kill an enemy with Hammer of the Ancients, other enemies in a short radius are stunned. The reason why I haven't gone with this yet is twofold. One, it is a very small radius. It's only 10 yards. So there's still going to be a lot of enemies that aren't stunned. Second of all, it is only when you kill something. So when things have, when your regular enemies have billions of HP, it takes a while to kill. And it is a significant damage difference between 535% to 640%. It's 105% more weapon damage. It's a large difference. So while the utility is very nice, the damage is a lot lower, which means you're taking longer to kill things. And the longer you take to kill things, the more time they are taking to damage you. So for that reason, I've gone to fire, but lightning is also a definite way you could go. Call of the Ancients, again, we are already getting the Ancient's Fury rune because of our shoulders. So we're going to go with Together as one. Now you might ask, why not the Council Rises? You're stacking fire damage and it's more damage. Good question. The point is survivability. Whereas the utility from the lightning version of Hammer of the Ancients is conditional, this is always on. So you're basically just having the damage that you're taking. So that's big. So while, yeah, we don't benefit from the lightning damage, it does greatly increase survivability at all times instead of the hammer, which is only sometimes. So we're going to go with that. Furious Charge, Merciless Assault. Again, you might ask, well, why not Battering Ram? Again, it's fire damage, and it's a lot more damage. You could go Battering Ram. The reason why I'm taking Merciless Assault is because we can use it a lot more often. Again, we are using Focus and Restraint. Furious Charge is a Fury generator. So it does work for the Focus and Restraint. And because in a large pack, you can use it over and over again, which A, means you constantly have both Focus and Restraint buffs up, and B, since it does knock things up, it means you can interrupt more, and that does help with survivability. So you can just use it a lot more often, which is why we're going with that. Wrath of Berserker Insanity probably doesn't require much explanation. I think every Barb build from now until the end of time will use this, unless they change it greatly. It's just a huge damage increase. Again, we do have 100% uptime, and also keeps us, completely immune to crowd control effects, which is fantastic. Battle Rage Bloodshed, again, used on pretty much every build. Huge damage increase. And again, the crit hits on, causing the explosion of blood, help us kill things. So, yeah, big deal. Warcry Impunity, again, does give us a lot of armor. Impunity gives us all resist. You do have a few other options. Veteran's Warning gives you dodge chance, which you could go with. If you really need armor, you could go with Hardened Wrath, but I'd probably stick between one of these two, depending what you really need. I know my all resist is actually fairly low, so Impunity is the easy call. As far as passives, Berserker Rage is a no-brainer. Because of our Gavel of Judgment, we're pretty much always at full Fury. So we're definitely going to be taking advantage of that damage buff. Brawler, we're going high level Greater Rifts. There's constantly, tons of enemies around you, you're always going to be getting this damage bonus, except for when you're on the Rift Guardian. But especially with the new change, where the focus is more on actually getting through the Rift and less on the Rift Guardian itself, this just became that much more valuable. Rampage for pretty much the same reason. There's just always enemies around for the most part, so you can get a lot more strength. Again, it does stack up to 25 times. That's 25% increased strength. That's a huge damage buff. On the last passive, you actually have a few options. I've gone with Ruthless here just for the additional damage. There's a few ways you can go, particularly if you're worried about survivability. And it's certainly not wrong to take a survivability passive if you feel you need to go that way. Nerves of Steel is certainly an option, to try to give you that second life, so to speak. What else are we looking at here? Relentless is there when you're below 35% life. You get more life per fury spent. Damage taken reduced by 50%. So there's a few different ways that you can go. The one thing, Superstition, Tough as Nails, etc. The one thing I will tell you, do not take is Boonable Kathos. Because it gives you reduced cooldown Wrath of Berserker, but again, with this build, you're going to have 100% uptime easily. It's not like some of the past builds where you really had to work for it. It is amazingly easy. Like, your Wrath of Berserker could still have half of its duration left, and it'll be off cooldown. You don't need this. Do not take it. Other than that, you have a lot of options for your fourth passive. I'm going with this right now. But again, especially as we climb, if we try to get to, much higher greater, if we try to, push for, 55, 60, whatever, then we might want to take a more defensive passive. But for right now, we're just going with Ruthless. So, that is the build. So I think I'm going to separate this into two videos just for the sake of time and to make it easier for those who are more interested in the build itself and those who are interested to see gameplay. But there will be a gameplay video as well. So this is the build, and just check out the next video to see it in action.